In the heart of Africa, where the sun rises and sets on dreams, there lived a young girl named Nneka. Nneka was born into a family where the value of a girl was measured by how well she could cook, clean, and eventually marry. Her father, Chief Ugwu, a man rooted in the traditions of their kingdom, saw no point in sending a girl to school. What does a girl need education for? He would grumble each time the subject came up. Her place is in her husband's house, not in a classroom. Nneka was the youngest of 5 children, with 3 brothers who went to school each day. Every morning she would stand by the kitchen window, her hands covered in flour or washing dishes, as she watched them walk out of the compound in their clean uniforms. Her heart ached with a longing that had no words. It wasn't just school she craved, it was the future. Nneka had always dreamed of becoming a lawyer. She would imagine herself in a black robe, standing before a court, fighting for justice and fairness. But in her father's house, such dreams were laughed at and dismissed. In the kingdom where Nneka grew up, girls were rarely given the chance to dream. At 15, Nneka's body had started changing in ways she didn't understand. Her breasts began to grow, her hips widened, and with these changes came confusion and fear. No one had spoken to her about these things. Her mother, who had been silenced by years of submission, brushed off her questions with a wave of her hand. "It's just the way of life," she said, her voice distant, avoiding the real conversation that Nneka desperately needed. Nneka felt alone. She didn't know where to turn, who to ask, or how to make sense of what was happening to her body. Desperate for answers, she confided in Bro Nneka, their friendly neighbor, who always seemed so understanding. He was older, charming, and always had a smile for Nneka whenever she passed by. Bro Nneka will understand, she thought. But what Nneka didn't know was that Nneka had darker intentions. He took advantage of her innocence, drawing her into a situation she couldn't escape. What began as a plea for guidance ended in betrayal. Nneka left her with more than just shame, he left her pregnant. When Nneka discovered she was with child, her world fell apart. She had no words to explain what had happened, and when she finally gathered the courage to tell her parents, her father's reaction was swift and brutal. His pride shattered, he threw her out of the house. "You have brought shame to this family," he bellowed, his face red with anger. "You are no longer my daughter." Nneka's heart broke that day. She had always known that the village held no space for girls like her, but to be cast out by her own family was a blow she never expected. With nowhere to go and no one to turn to, the streets became her home. Each day was a battle for survival, and the streets, cruel and unforgiving, became her new reality. Life on the streets was a nightmare. Nneka would clutch her belly at night, the growing child within her the only reminder that she was still alive. Her dreams of being a lawyer seemed so distant now, like a faded memory from another life. But even in her darkest moments, something deep inside her refused to let go. There was a fire in Nneka, a quiet but fierce determination that would not be extinguished. Months passed, and Nneka gave birth to a baby girl whom she named Chamaka, meaning God is beautiful. Holding her daughter in her arms, Nneka felt a renewed sense of purpose. She wasn't just living for herself anymore. She was living for her daughter. And for Chamaka she would fight. Determined not to let her circumstances define her, Nneka began to rebuild her life. She found shelter with a kind-hearted woman, Mama Ngozi, who had heard of her plight and took her in. Mama Ngozi ran a small food stall in the market, and she offered Nneka work, sweeping floors and washing dishes. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Nneka saved every coin she earned, her mind always on one thing: education. She still held onto the dream of becoming a lawyer. She knew that the only way to change her world and the world her daughter would grow up in was through knowledge. In the quiet hours of the night, when Chiamaka slept, Nneka would study. Mama Ngozi, seeing her determination, helped her enroll in night classes. Nneka worked during the day and studied under the dim light of the market stall in the evening. Exhaustion weighed heavily on her, but her spirit was unbreakable. Years went by, and Nneka's hard work began to pay off. She passed her exams and gained a scholarship to study law at the university. It was a moment she had dreamed of for so long, a moment that seemed almost impossible. But here she was, standing at the gates of a future she had fought for with every breath in her body. University wasn't easy. Nneka faced discrimination and judgment from those who knew her story. But she didn't care. She had learned that the opinions of others could not define her. With her head held high and her daughter by her side, Nneka graduated with honors. The day she stood before the court, wearing her lawyer's robe for the first time, Nneka felt a surge of pride that words could never fully capture. She had done it. She had risen from the ashes of her past, defied every expectation, and became the woman she had always known she could be. Nneka didn't stop there. She became a voice for the voiceless, fighting for the rights of girls and women in her kingdom. She worked tirelessly to ensure that no girl would ever be denied an education or be cast aside because of her gender. Through her work, Nneka changed not just her life but the lives of countless others. The girl who once stood alone had become a beacon of hope. Nneka's story teaches us that even in the face of betrayal, rejection, and unimaginable hardship, courage can change the world. It is not where you come from but where you are going that defines you. And with the courage to stand alone, even the most impossible dreams can become reality. Thank you for listening to Nneka's journey. If this story has inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tales of courage, hope, and triumph.